being by myself, it would be done. It would be done half-assed. It would work. It would work well. It would be well insulated, but I would cut all the corners and I would not do anything nicely. It would look half-assed. Somebody would come in and say, boy, somebody did a half-assed job here. Well, that's where my friend Terry comes in, who is the king of getting things done pretty darn well. And so let's meet him, and I'll have him tell you what we're doing because he's the man. All right. So Terry, say hi to everyone at home.
Hey everyone. So you're trying to say I'm anal, huh, Bob?
Yeah, no, nothing like that. So just give everybody a once-over on what we've done so far. They saw us pull the 1x4s off.
Yeah, we pulled the 1x4s off, and then we used some of the, you know, everything you do, you gotta have to figure it out as you go. This came with the solar panels. This is the packing foam, and it comes obviously in a big sheet. And we cut it and stuffed it up here, up above, and it went up about that far, you know, 3 to 4 inches up underneath, and that was the best we could come up with. And we've done that all the way across. We might have
we haven't done it there yet.
There. And then we cut off some of this foam that they put in here, and I think this is to keep it from rattling.
Let me show them over here. So this one is what it looks like untrimmed. You see this? This is, like Terry said, this is to keep this from rattling, the ribs and the sheet metal. So he just took, and how did you do that?
Well, I just did it with a box knife and a putty knife, a razor knife. And I just cut it like that. And then use my putty knife to try to knock it off, and just trying to get it down where it's workable a little bit, because it was kind of making it hard for us to do this right. So now we've got it trimmed where we think it's good enough, and we measured this distance here, and it's 17 inches between the edge of there and the edge of there, of these ribs. And so we're going to put our first piece of foam into that. And we did this one already, and it's 48 inches long, but we had to contour it over the fender well down here. And we removed this section of it. Okay, so what we did is we stuck the full sheet up there when it was together, and we should have recorded that while we were doing it. We'll do better on the next one. And then I measured the distance from the bottom to this is the biggest gap, and then I just followed the contour up with this compass.
Now show them what it is, the compass.
This is just
it's designed for this purpose.
This is one I just found on the internet, Fast Cap compass. You can get an actual cheap compass and do the same thing. This one will just do longer distances. It comes with a pencil in it, but I stuck a Sharpie in there, and it lets you adjust whatever height you're working with. You could do the same thing with a stick and a pencil, and maybe we'll do that on the next one.
But this probably wasn't much money, was it?
No, it was, you know, like
$5,
8 or 10 bucks, something like that. Yeah, not bad. But a compass works good for small gaps too, because you describe it basically, and then you cut it and fit it, and sometimes it's trial and error, and there you go. And Bob's your uncle.
Right. And so that actually fit in there very, very snugly. I think we could probably leave it, but we'll spray glue it with 3M77. We'll just spray glue this whole surface, squeeze that in, and it'll stay there forever. We're a little surprised how well the Polyiso is curving. I hadn't expected it to curve to the wall. It's, as you can see here, it's actually kind of breaking as much as it's curving, but that's fine. I don't think that's, so you can see an actual break in there. And so we're using, this is 1/2 inch. Let me show you this. It's Polyiso, which is the highest rated of all of the, so it's Polyiso. Let me show you this over here. Product thickness, 1/2 inch is rated at 3.2, and so a full would be rated at 6.4. That's a very high R value for sheets.
So we have the same issue that we did on the last one. These little places where it pokes out is keeping it from sitting in there the way we want it. So I think we'll do one side first and just try to bring it around.
So we're just going to use isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and to clean it with so that the glue sticks well. Just isopropyl alcohol. I'm getting a paper towel, good and wet. Don't spill it all. And I'm just going to clean her up.
What's nice about the alcohol is it's cheap and it evaporates quick.
Now, what we're doing is we're going to put, so we're going to have a half-inch layer flush up against the wall, glued in. And then we're going to put another half-inch layer, or maybe even 1 inch, we're undecided, in this rib, so then it will become 1 inch. And then finally we'll go back with the paneling. This is 3M Super 77 spray glue. This has a really, really good reputation in the industry, building industry, as a great glue. I'm assuming it needs to be shaken. Can you do it too thick or too thin?
Yeah, just do it lightly for what we're doing. Because you gotta have to go a long way. Don't do such a good job.
Huh? So we'll do it on both sides. So now we set and wait until it gets tacky.
Typically, anytime you finish with a spray, and we're going to use some more of this, so it's not a big deal right now, but you turn it upside down, and then what happens is what's in the tube gets pushed out by just plain compressed gas that's in the can.
So we put it on both sides, and we're just waiting for it to dry. So we're going to start it at the bottom.
Right in the center there. There we go.
There you went into the...
It's not coming off.
It's not coming off. So one of the panels is done. So you've seen one done pretty much almost from beginning to end. We didn't actually let you. But so we're going to do this one. It's cut and it's clean. We have a piece to go in. So this one, because this one's cut and ready to go, we will, we're just going to stick it in now. Well, if it went up and down, it would only give you one turn. So now we're at the same place. We've got the, we've cut it, we've measured it, we've cut it, we've cleaned off the excess of this on both sides. Now we've got spray glue on it, just letting it get tacky. It's a little off.
Yeah, I know. I looked at it.
Good thing you did, because I did not.
Push it all the way up against that. One edge or the other. You got an inch in the right.
Hi everyone. Now it's towards the end of the second day of the build. You saw some of the first day. We just worked on the insulation. We're just actually working on the insulation still. Let me show you where we are and what we've done. By the end of the day, we should have at least one wall completely paneled and done. But before that paneling goes up, I want you to see exactly what we've done and how and why. So, you can see this wall. This wall is all insulated. This is half-inch polyiso, and it's in between the ribs, glued into between the ribs. So, and all the walls, there's a gap. We just put in a quick gap. Just cut a little piece here to fill this one gap, because it's about 49.5 inches, and these are only 48 inches wide. So that's the wall. You kind of saw this notching out around the one, the wheel wells. And this back piece was just a mess, so I just cut a bunch of little pieces that I had and glued them in. Where the ribs go, that'll be a thermal bridge. If this is all I did, and this is all some people do, the heat will transfer through this rib, through the hollow spot, and right out. And so while it's really great that I put this insulation in here, the thermal bridging is still really going to hurt. So what I'm going to do instead is take one long continuous sheet of insulation, 1/2-inch polyiso, that's going to be about R3.2 or R3.3, and put it over all of the ribs, all the length. So it'll be R5 directly screwed, glued to the wall, and then, I'm sorry, 1/2 inch R3.3 screwed directly to the wall. Glued directly to the wall. It's been a long day and I'm kind of tired. And then the 1/2 inch of R3.3 on the outside. So it's going to be about R6. There will be no thermal bridging. And one of the reasons I think that going directly against the wall is important is because there's the possibility of mold. And I've had a van that had some mold problems because there was this big air gap. More moist air gets around. It's going to get around. You can't keep the warm, moist air getting around. It goes around, it gets onto the wall, hits the wall, the cold wall. Of course, the wall's cold. It drops its moisture, and then you got a damp wall. You got a damp wall year after year after year, and before long you got mold. I think this will eliminate it by completely putting the insulation up against the wall. There's no chance warm, moist air will get behind there, and there should not be mold. I'm hoping that will solve the mold problem. That's my main goal. Now, all the way, there's just a lot of little problems. Let me show you what we've done. Now I'm going to show you this is the bridging. This goes on the outside. First, we had to go a hole for the gas filler. See, there's the gas filler. So the gas filler, and then the wheel well, those both had to have, we had to work around them. And then on this back wall, now this is the Chevy van, and so if you have a Chevy van, this might be problems you'll face. If you have a Ford van, you'll have your own problems. There's always wheel wells and there's always a gas filler. And then up here, see this was a problem. So what we've done is we've actually created a notch for this, and one of the pieces of the insulation goes on the outside so we can screw it, and some goes underneath. And then we also have this problem, this big piece here. So we had to get around this, we had to notch this out for that. And then of course we had to notch out a big hole for the wheel well, and finally a big hole for the gas filler. This is the template we created. Now, when I'm saying we here, this is all Terry. Terry is the man. I helped. He wants me to make sure I say that I helped. But I did a lot. I'm not a shirker. But Terry's the brains.
Oh, no.
I'm the beauty.
Team effort.
Let's face it, I am the beauty here.
Team effort.
But Terry is the brains. So, and now let me show you something else that we did. Once this is up, you're not going to see the ribs anymore. Once that styrofoam goes up over it and the paneling behind it. So we held this up and marked it, and you can see that marks it. And so from now on, when we need to know where the holes are in the ribs, because the ribs are full of these holes, we have this template. Keep dropping it. And that was really a good idea. And then this was the template that created the wheel well. Just the cardboard, piece of cardboard. So you want to have some cardboard around. And I had just ordered a Renogy solar panel. And so we had this piece of cardboard that we just, I can't even begin to replicate the calculations that went into making that happen, but it did. Okay, so I think that's about it. Oh, yeah, one thing else we did today, which was actually pretty time consuming, was we're going to do the same thing on the roof. And so there were lights. Now, this van came with 3 lights on 3 of the ribs, 1, 2, and 3. And so we took those down and cleaned them up because they're going to be nothing but a problem, and I have my own LED lights, and so I didn't care to keep those. So we took those down, and then when we're going to do the insulation on the roof, starting maybe tomorrow, in exactly the same way, we'll put 1 inch of Polyiso up on here, glued directly up there, and then we'll have a 1/2 inch piece of Polyiso that is the thermal bridge that goes up against the ribs, and they will be screwed in. So each rib, here's a rib, we will screw up in
To secure the paneling.
to secure the paneling, and the paneling will be on the outside of it. So once we had cut this piece, we took it and used it as a template for the other side, because it's pretty much exactly the same except for the gas filler, it's not there. And we also use this as a template for the paneling. Let me show you the paneling. So here's the paneling. This is just a cheap $10 piece of paneling I picked up. So we took it over and used a jigsaw and cut out this is the gas filler, it's obvious. And here's the wheel well. Good thing. In fact, here's the piece. And we had this thing at the top, so we also had to notch this out. So we're going to make a sandwich. We will glue. This was a little notch that we had to make to fit around something. So what's going to happen is we're going to, and you can see we used, when you cut thin paneling, cheap thin paneling, which this is, that's $10 a sheet, it's very thin, cheap. You put down tape first. So what we did was we put the styrofoam sheet on top of this, traced it, put this blue tape over that trace, and then traced over this so that we had the blue tape, and we cut, as you can see, we cut through the tape, and that keeps, hopefully, and I did a really good job, it keeps the paneling from splintering. Up and over, and up against the backward view, and what do you think? Very good. Come back. So we've done our dry fitting, and we ran into a slight problem. That's fine. That's just the way all construction is. You're doing kind of fine carpentry. This one edge is blocking us from moving to where we want to go. So he's going to scribe out
on your waist. Nice. Everything stays where it's supposed to be.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Let me show you what I'm doing next. Let me take this off so you can actually hear me. I'm working with fiberglass. That's why I have this on. And working with fiberglass is no fun. So you need to take some protection. I'm wearing gloves. I don't want gloves. I should be wearing a long sleeve shirt, but I'm not. I don't want to breathe fiberglass fibers, literally fibers. So I'm wearing a respirator, a mask. It's just a simple mask, a couple bucks. But what am I doing? So let me show you here. We have this gap. Now at the back gap, this is the back behind the back door. There's the door. At the back gap, I'm thinking the 1/2 inch Polyiso will slide under here. So, but we have this gap, and I cannot slide anything in there. And it runs the entire length of the van. And I don't want to lose that much airspace uninsulated. So what I have is a water heater blanket. This is a water heater blanket, and I bought a water heater blanket because it's thinner. I could have bought a fiberglass bat that you insulate with, but they're 3.5 inches, and that's too thick. You'd have to compress it to fit it in. So it still would not give you the R value that this will, which is like 1.5 inches, and it also has a really heavy vinyl backing. Because this is intended, the vinyl backing would be around the outside. It would wrap around your hot water heater, your 50-gallon hot water heater, and you would tape it on. And it comes with a tape. So that's what I'm using, and I just cut it with scissors. I mean, if you've ever worked with fiberglass, it's just cut it with scissors. It's just like a messy fabric, thick, messy fabric. And I'm cutting it. I happen to have a 6-foot straight edge. I've owned this 6-foot straight edge for a very long time. I built a house with it in 1995. And so to cut it, and it turns out it needs to be just about 1/2 inch wider than the width of the straight edge. So I just set it down and move it over about 1/2 inch and use my scissors to cut along it. And that's how I get long strips of fiberglass the right length. And then it goes up. Oh, where did I put that piece? So here's a piece that I've cut. See? Just a real quick job, you know. Try to use a straight edge to get a little bit straight. So I have to push it back all the way, go forward, come to the edge of the rib, grab my scissors, cut it at the rib. And push it in. So I just shoved it in. That's all. It just shows in. There will be a 1-inch piece of polyiso that will fit in here in front of it. So there will be a continuous insulation barrier. And it hangs out a little. I cut this one a little too wide. Or it may vary, I don't know. And so I'll have to trim a little bit under here with my scissors. I get my scissors right here. And I'll just trim it to fit. And then I'll just continue up all the way across, and then do the same thing around the back. And if I'm going to do a really good job, I will stuff it in here, but I have other considerations. So let me show you something else we did here while I'm here. This is a piece of parachute cord that we ran through. Terry, being really an expert at this stuff, he was a lineman for many, many, many years. He's a retired lineman. Lineman for the county, as Glenn Campbell sang. And he had us a fishing tool, and he ran the fish through here, and we pulled through this parachute cord. This parachute cord will live here. Its job will be to live there forever, and if I ever need to fish anything, I will fish it through with this parachute cord, because he has a fishing tool and I don't. How many of us carry fishing tools around with us? And if I ever do that, then I will run another cord to leave in there. There will always be a parachute cord in this rib forever. Even if I run a wire, I will put parachute cord to the end of that wire and run it through too. So there will always be parachute cord in there, along with electrical wires. Okay, so now I will just continue on. I'll trim this down so it fits. You see, it fits in there without squeezing it and compressing it. If you squeeze and compress fiberglass, it loses its R value. It doesn't help to squeeze 3.5 inches in an 1.5 inch hole. In fact, all that will do is lose your insulation value, and you will just throw away money. And you can see this is one, I just cut this off. We talked about this just a minute ago. So that's a nice straight edge for when I put in the when I cut the 1-inch piece of polyiso that will go up and get glued up. Okay, so I'll stop there and just keep working, but I want you to see what I'm doing with some of the details. Okay, so we're about ready to put the insulation and then the paneling on one of the short walls. The passenger side, the short wall behind the back windows, the back doors, the side doors. So let me show you. We've just stuffed, basically what you're going to see here is that we have stuffed either styrofoam, polyiso, or just the fiberglass in every little nook and cranny. We thought it's not critical. Some of it's real sloppy. It's just got something in most places where we can lose a lot of heat, and that's just our only goal. Just try not to lose any more heat than we absolutely have to. So let me show you. Just look around. So like I said, we've started by putting this fiberglass in these holes across the top. There'll be polyiso that goes out and flush up against it, but just in case any can get through there. And we ran the water heater blanket back in behind here, underneath, into this little box, which is structural. And then, here's a little gap. So we just cut whatever we had and stuffed it in there in all the little gaps, because some of this stuff was pretty darn hard to make it work. And so, we just glued that in, a little piece of fiberglass to cover that hole. And you say, well, that looks terrible. No one's ever going to see it. It should work. That's the key. Just will this keep as much of the cold in as we can. Cold out and heat in. Same thing here, just a gap behind there. So I stuffed fiberglass in there. And again, we talked about this pillar that may or may not have insulation in front of it. So I've stuffed fiberglass inside it. And we're holding all this up with glue, with the marine glue, with Scotch 77, 3M 77. And that's it. This wall is pretty darn well insulated, as well as I care to do it. And then we're going to have also another piece of styrofoam, of polyiso on the outside of it. So this ½ inch with all we've done on it, and then another ½ inch on the outside. And I think this is extraordinarily well insulated van. So we'll call that good enough and move on. Years ago.
They come in very handy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be without it. So we're giving you a progress report here. We're still working on this front end, which will be the last of the wall. You can see that this wall piece is now in and screwed in. We have put the this front piece back in. Terry did the majority of this, and over here we've cut in and placed the insulation. Now I just sprayed glue on that, and we're just it gets tacky. You got to wait till it gets dry to the touch, And here is the insulation that will go inside there. And then it will, we'll just stand that up, shove it in, and it will be glued in. We've already cut the paneling to fit. And you know, I can't give a lot of details because there's just a lot of little problems you'll run into. You say, well, I want to do this, but this is in the way, and that's in the way, and this is a problem. And then you solve each of the problems, and then you get it done. And you know, as a carpenter, that's just kind of what you do. But it's just kind of logic. You're playing chess game. You got to move this pawn, this pawn, this pawn, then you can take the queen. And that's really just the way this whole carpentry is. Moving from one job to the next and then finally getting the job done. So I will glue this in and bring in the last piece of paneling and put it in, and we'll be very nearly done. We'll do the roof, which may or may not get done today, and then we will be done with that and be ready for actual build. Again, it's chess set. We're playing chess. First, you get everything in place, then you do the final attack. And that's just what we're doing here. Getting everything in place, getting the base work done. I'm still kind of undecided, kicking around different ideas about the floor. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with the floor. I may or may not cover it. And I'll talk to you about that more when I've made a final decision.
Need
to do this. Glue on it.
So this corner first and up, huh?
And this side. All the way. Yeah, it feels like it's up all the way. There we go. Yeah. So that's it. That's the whole thing. Glued on and done. So what we're doing now is we've cut this styrofoam. This is 1-inch polyiso, and we're going to glue it. And this is how you glue a piece. And everything we do, Terry does better than I do. He's got more experience, and he's got an attitude that makes him better. Being the king of half-assed, most of what I do is not that great.
He's trying to say I'm anal.
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm the king of half-assed. It's a different story. Oh, and you can see it bent there. Oh, I don't know if you did see that. Bend that for him. Pick that up for him and show him how we bent it. We cut it. This is 1 inch, and it does not like to bend, so we creased it, and you can see how at wings we cut the fiber, and when we that'll show him. And then when we forced it in, it breaks to conform to the curve. So although 1-inch polyiso is not flexible, it worked pretty well. Go ahead. I'll get out of the way. So that's how you do it. It's the 3M77 wants to be glued. Both sides, the bottom of both sides have to be glued together. So we spray it on the top, we'll spray it on the bottom, we dry fit it, make sure it goes in reasonably well, split it so it curves to the curve of the wall. The express fans are very curved. There's a lot of curving has to be done to make the express fans fit. So we've done that, and it's going to go really well. It's going really well. The 1-inch polyiso is going to really give me a lot of insulation on the roof. It's most important to insulate the roof really well. If you don't do anything else, insulate the roof really well, and glue will hold it up there. And then we're going to have paneling, just the cheap paneling that's going to be screwed up into the ribs to hold it up there if the glue ever failed, which it won't. Okay, so we'll move on.